Good evening, and welcome to the Miracle of Prosperity. I'm Reverend Jim Webb, Senior Minister of the Tacoma Metaphysical Chapel in Silver Spring, Maryland, and author of the book, The Soul of Prosperity. So I'd like to open, as always, with a question for you. What type of prosperity do you desire to enhance in your life? Would you like more spiritual prosperity, where you experience more of the peace that passes all understanding? Would you like more professional prosperity, whereas in the words of Florence Scovel Shinn, you have a wonderful job with wonderful pay, where you provide a wonderful service in a wonderful way? Would you like more relationship prosperity, where your relationships are supportive and uplifting and relatively free of conflict and drama, also known as conflama? Would you like more financial prosperity, where your finances are a source of joy and expansiveness and no longer a source of worry, conflict, or concern? Or would you like E, all of the above? For they are all one. And that's what we work with here on the Miracle of Prosperity. We work to understand and remove the blockages to prosperity that are hidden in plain sight, and to enhance our consciousness of prosperity, because consciousness creates our experiences. And as we develop a consciousness of prosperity, we can experience more prosperity in every aspect of our lives. Now, one of the things that we often emphasize is that prosperity is a part of a spiritual practice. And if you'd like to grow and transform your life, it is necessary to have a daily spiritual practice. As I've often said, prosperity is not something that you do once a year or maybe 2 or 3 times a year at the beginning of the year when you do your vision board, and then every 3 months when you clean out your closet and remember that it's there and you look at it for 2 minutes. No. Prosperity is a part of your daily spiritual practice where you continually build a connection with and a relationship with the divine source of all love, the divine source of all good, the divine source of all peace, the divine source of harmony. And as you build that relationship with Source, you realize that you are not apart from Source, that you are the reflection, the extension, and the expression of Source, and that Source is infinitely abundant in all ways, and so are you. And you then remove any blockages to any aspect of the prosperity that you desire. This is a daily spiritual practice. So there are tools that we can use to enhance this daily spiritual practice. One of the tools that we can use to enhance this daily spiritual practice is one that we'll talk about today. And when I say we, I am not alone. I am here today with Dr. Susan Shumsky. Dr. Susan Shumsky is a renowned spiritual teacher. She's the author of over 20 books. She studied extensively for over 40 years. She studied with the Maharishi, the same one who was the guru to the Beatles and to Deepak Chopra. And along the way, she gathered spiritual wisdom from a number of different disciplines and her own ongoing spiritual journey. Now, a lot of that is depicted in one of her latest books called Prosperity Meditations. This book is absolutely wonderful because what it does is it expands our awareness of prosperity, just as we've described it, as more than just money and stuff. and it enhances your daily spiritual practice of prosperity. It has meditations for every aspect of prosperity. But not only does it have meditations, it also has mantras, it also has exercises, it also has many teachings, and it is just a fount of support for your daily spiritual practice of prosperity. So I want to introduce Dr. Susan Shumsky. Hi, Dr. Susan. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, Reverend Jim. I'm really excited to be here tonight. Thanks so much for inviting me.
It's such a pleasure to have you, and thank you for joining us. Now, one of the things we often say is that prosperity is hidden in plain sight. Our task is to remove any barriers to the prosperity that would naturally flow to us, through us, and express as us. So, in your opinion and your experience as such a noted spiritual teacher, what would you say is one of the key blockages to prosperity that we can work to remove?
Probably the main block to prosperity in any area of life, money, or any other area of life, is the feeling that we are not worthy.
Yes.
Unworthiness.
Yes. I was hoping you'd say that. In the Soul of Prosperity, my book, we develop a thesis, and at the core of the thesis is just that self-love, or the lack thereof, is the key blockage to prosperity. And that sense of worthiness is an extension and expression of either self-love or the lack of self-love. Now, on page 157, I believe, of your book, you have some self-love affirmations, meditations, and tools. Can you tell us a little about that? How you can develop more of a consciousness of worthiness, also known as self-love?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that just by virtue of our existence, just because of the fact that I am, that we are worthy of infinite prosperity. It's our birthright.
Yes.
Yeah. And prosperity consciousness, I'm just going to read that from the book because that's the best way to describe it. Prosperity consciousness is intrinsic subconscious belief that you are worthy to be wealthy, healthy, cared for, lavishly supplied, and wildly, passionately happy. True abundance is infinite joy, fullness, contentment, wholeness, and repletion. So the prosperity consciousness is our knowingness that we are worthy of all of that and more, because infinite source and substance is available to every one of us.
Yes, absolutely. And one of the things that I've discovered, and I'd love your opinion on this, is that in order to avail ourselves to that infinite source, that loving substance, and empower ourselves to create a reflection of that substance in the ways that we desire, we have to do a spiritual striptease. we have to strip ourselves of all the limiting labels that we thought defined us in our ego body consciousness. We have to release the limitations of our past miseducation. And we have to let go of the energy of the past that may have been self-deprecating, self-limiting, self-condemning, in order to soar. And what would you say to that? And what mantras, what tools, what teachings in your book would help us to address that?
Yeah, the thing is, we have all the garbage of the past.
Yes.
Everything that, our parents told us, peers told us, maybe our spouse, many people in our life have told us that we're worthless, or we've created a story that they have told us that we're worthless.
Yeah.
And because of that, it's very important for us to recognize what the thoughts are that are randomly going through our minds, and if possible, to transform those thoughts into something more positive. Because as we all know, as Lord Buddha said in the first chapter of the first verse of the Dhammapada, he said, all that we are is the result of what we have thought. All that we are is the result of what we have thought. And he goes on in that verse to say, if a person speaks or acts with a pure thought, then happiness follows him or her. If a person speaks or acts with an impure thought, then unhappiness follows him or her. So he's not only talking about thoughts, he's also talking about speech. He says if a person speaks or acts. So it's not only thoughts that is creating our destiny, it's the words and also the deeds. So these very deep-seated beliefs of unworthiness, we can work on transforming them, changing them, and particularly changing the way that we vocalize, changing the words that are coming out of our mouths. Because if we go around saying, oh, I'm so unhappy, I'm so sad, I'm so poor, I'm so overweight, I'm so this, I'm so that, that's exactly what we will manifest in our lives. So it's really important that instead we go around saying, I am happy, I am joyous, I am fulfilled, I am content, I am filled with light, I'm filled with love, I'm filled with power. I mean, just feel the vibration of those powerful affirmations. And so changing our language is very, very important. It's easier to change your language than it is to change the random thoughts that are going through your mind, because those, we can't always catch those. But when we do catch them, what I do, if I catch myself being negative, speaking negatively to myself, I'll just, first of all, say, I forgive myself. Susan, I forgive you for saying those things about yourself. And now let's say something positive. I am worthy. I am joyous. I am fulfilled. So words are so important. That's why in my book, Prosperity Meditations, what I suggest is that you speak these affirmations that are in the book in a powerful, confident voice, audibly. Don't just read them, say them with power. Like, for instance, I am in control. I am one with God. I am the only authority in my life. I am divinely protected by the light of my being. I close off my aura and body of light to the lower astral levels of mind, and I open to the spiritual world. Thank you, God, and so it is. So speaking with authority and conviction is the best way to really begin to change our beliefs.
Yes, that is wonderful. And you just gave our viewers a wonderful tool. And I want to take it a step further, because as we state this truth, if I hear you correctly, we start to vibrate with this truth. And even if we can't catch the random thoughts, I wonder if something happens that as we work with our vibration through changing our words, which changes our vibration, if the thoughts that are dissonant to that become a little bit more apparent to us, and therefore easier to catch, because they are more contrary to the vibration that we develop when speaking the affirmation. What do you think of that?
I agree wholeheartedly, Reverend Jim. I think it's very, very true. Yeah.
Okay. So A Course in Miracles, what I also like to do is I like to map everything back to A Course in Miracles. A Course in Miracles has taught us that we often aren't thinking at all. We're often just regurgitating the misinformation and the miseducation and the pain that we've experienced and observed. And that doesn't take much thinking at all. That's just a reflex. And so it sounds to me like the affirmations can change our vibration and therefore counteract those habitual reflexes that are the unconscious thoughts. So thank you for sharing that with our viewers. And one of our viewers had a very interesting observation. One of our viewers said, "Oh, that is our story." And one of the things that I often share with people is, would you rather be in your story, no matter how comfortable and familiar it is? Or would you rather be in your glory? And it sounds like the affirmations that you are stating are affirmations that elevate us to our glory and take us out of our story.
Exactly.
And I thank you for that. I thank you for that. So that is wonderful. Now, I have another question for you before we go to break and before we take questions. One of the things that we can do is to work with positive words, positive affirmations that create a positive energy and help us catch the negative thoughts that are unconsciously bubbling up beneath the surface. What is one of the things that we can let go of in order to experience a more prosperous life?
Yeah, well, unworthiness, obviously.
Okay.
That's really the core issue of all anti-prosperity consciousness.
Yes. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, unworthiness and any other belief that no longer serves you. I mean, such beliefs as guilt, regret, blame, sadness, pain, all negative thoughts and feelings that no longer serve us. I have a wonderful method. It's called the thought form healing prayer. And in that, what we do is we recognize the thoughts and feelings and emotions that don't serve us, and we transform them into their opposites. So here's how you would do that. You'd say, I call upon the Holy Spirit to lovingly lift, heal, release, and let go of all limiting thoughts, feelings, and emotions that no longer serve me. And then what you would do is you'd say, I now release all thoughts of, and then you would close your eyes and you would just whatever's bubbling up for you. I release all thoughts of unworthiness, of fear, of frustration, anxiety, guilt, whatever it is that's coming up. And then you say, and they are gone. They are burnt in the fire of God's love. They are lifted into the light of God's truth. And they are gone. And I am now filled, surrounded, and embrace powerful, new, positive thoughts and emotions of, and then close your eyes, and love, peace, happiness, forgiveness, freedom, joy, limitlessness. And then you would say, and I now know that these are imbibed in my beingness. And thank you, God. And so it is. And you could do it much simpler than that. You could just simply say, I now release all thoughts of, close your eyes and say what's coming up, and then say, and they are gone. I now embrace new positive thoughts of, say that what they are, and that's it. You're done.
Okay. In other words, release and receipt. Release that which no longer serves you and receive from the great source the ideas, the thoughts, the energies that would serve you better.
Exactly.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Well, what a wonderful thought to share as we go to break. We're going to break now, and I know that many in our audience, many of whom are already calling or already typing in, have questions for you. So everybody, while we're on break, prepare your questions, and we're going to work with some of your questions with Dr. Susan when we come back here on the New Thought Media Network. And we're back here on the Miracle of Prosperity. I'm Reverend Jim Webb, author of The Soul of Prosperity, and I'm with Dr. Susan Shumsky, author of Prosperity Meditations, and I think 19 or 20 other books, including The Miracle of Prayer, which is over her left shoulder. Now, one of the ways that you have been described is as the goddess of affirmative prayer. Because
Okay.
because Dr. Susan, a friend of mine often says, this woman can work with affirmative prayers like no one else I've ever known. And the book, The Miracle of Prayer, is a wonderful expression of that. So since you tend to focus on affirmative prayers, one of the thoughts that came up during the break was, how can we include this release and receive aspect into an affirmative prayer? And if you want to do an example of one.
Yeah, it's just right in the middle.
Yes.
It's
I
the
call it
part
the
where you
entree.
are. It's the part where you're releasing the
Yes.
old things and you bring in the new.
Yes, I call it the entree. With affirmative prayer, the invocation being like an appetizer or the cocktail, the unification being the appetizer, the entree being this is what we transform, this is what we create,
Right.
and then the release being
Right.
the dessert.
It's right after the unification. You would convince yourself. I mean, the whole idea of affirmative prayer is to convince yourself of the truth.
Yes.
Well, that's the purpose. So as you're convincing yourself of the truth, you release the old things that no longer serve you, and you welcome in that which serves you. And then after that, you release it into the spiritual law.
Okay, so let's do an example of one. Let's do an example of an affirmative prayer that is release and receive. And let's do one, for example, of someone who has lost a dear family member and is moving through many of the stages of grief and loss. And how to move and navigate through that to get to peace and joy.
Okay.
So so let's do an affirmative prayer based on that.
Okay. So if you don't mind, I'm just going to close my eyes because that's how I do the prayers.
Do what you do.
All right. So let's take a big deep breath to unite with each other. Breathe in and let it go. Big deep breath of divine love. Breathe in and release. And big deep breath of peace, of inner peace. Breathe in and let it all go. So we now know and recognize that there is one power and one presence at work in the universe and in our lives. God the good, omnipotent. God is the source of our good, the light of our life, the truth of our being. God is comfort and solace. God is peace. God is divine love. God is unconditional love. God is infinite love. God is the source of comfort, the source of wholeness and oneness. And we are now unified and one with God. We are fully allied and aligned with God in a perfect, seamless wholeness. There is no separation between ourselves and God. We live, breathe, move, and have our being in God and through God. God is the very center and essence of our being. We now therefore know and claim that we are free from grief. Actually, I would say the person's name. The person who asked about Jane?
Jane.
So we now know and affirm that Jane is free from sadness, from pain. She is free from guilt and any other limiting emotions that no longer serve her. Any limiting emotions that make her feel that there's any, that she is responsible for anything, that she is unworthy, that she in any way did anything to cause pain to the person that she lost. So these thoughts are now lifted, healed, dissolved, released, and let go from Jane's mind now, and they are gone. And we see, know, and accept now that Jane is filled with positive, powerful, new, creative thoughts and emotions of self-love, self-worth, self-acceptance. She releases all regret, and she is filled with forgiveness and healing of herself. And we know now that the sadness and the grief is released from Jane's mind and heart, and that Jane knows for sure that her loved one whom she lost is now in the hands of God. And she finds comfort knowing that God's love fills and surrounds Jane and fills and surrounds her loved one, and that she is filled with so much peace and so much love, and that God's love is just washing over Jane and eliminating all the grief, all the sadness, all the pain. And Jane is just now filled with so much love, so much peace of mind. And she just feels that she's sitting in the lap of God, and that God is just comforting her and filling her with her true expression of divine love. So we now thank God for manifesting all this or better. We accept fully in consciousness all that I have spoken. And we now release this prayer into the spiritual law, knowing it does demonstrate now under grace and in perfect ways. Thank you, God, and so it is, so be it.
Thank you, Dr. Susan. Thank you so much. And Jane thanks you as well. And that just brought up for me a question that I forgot to ask you before. And that is, this book is so full of wisdom in so many ways, using so many traditions and so many techniques. What caused you to write this book? What prompted you to write this book, given your vast array of experiences and your vast array of writings?
I'm really glad that I wrote it, simply because it just affirms again how important prayer and affirmation and mantras and all the different techniques that are in this book. And I'm so excited that I wrote a book about manifestation, really.
Yes.
And it really it's something that was missing from my repertoire of books, I think.
Now, was there a specific incident or a specific thing that said, I'm going to write a book about this? Or did it just kind of fall down like a feather in your mind from
it fell down like a feather in my publisher's mind. My publisher asked me to write a book about prosperity. So I thought, that's a great opportunity. I love the idea.
Okay. It fell like a feather in your publisher's mind. Okay. Great. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Well, we're going to go to break, and we're going to do a couple more examples of affirmative prayer after the break, and we're going to then have a surprise for you. So we're going to go to break right now on the New Thought Media Network.
New Thought Media Network is on the rise. We're looking to grow with you. Do you have technical media experience, or perhaps a desire to learn? Are you willing to volunteer your precious time and attention? We share this message to benefit all. If you possess a computer with a camera and a microphone, we will share our knowledge with you. Behind the scenes or being the star, let us bless our one. contact us at info@ntmedia.org.
And we're back here on the Miracle of Prosperity with Dr. Susan Shumsky. And we're actually talking about one of her latest books, Prosperity Meditations. But she's such a prolific author and such a powerful spiritual teacher that I have another question for you, Dr. Susan. And that is, of the books that you've published, which resonates with you the most and why?
Oh, I think probably Divine Revelation, my first book.
Tell us about that.
Where is that? Do I have it here to show you? I don't have it. Divine Revelation is about learning how to listen to the still small voice within, how to connect directly with spirit and receive divine healing, wisdom, inspiration, have that cosmic connection with your higher self or whatever you want to call it, God, being able to open to spirit and receive messages whenever you want, anytime, at will. And actually, this book, which is Awaken Your Divine Intuition, this is written like a workshop, whereas Divine Revelation is written more like a book. But this book has the same information, abbreviated version of the same information in it. So I would recommend this one, Awaken Your Divine Intuition, if you want to truly be able to any time that you want, day or night, in any situation, to call upon the divine presence and to receive very practical answers to everyday problems, to be able to receive what you need at that time, and to receive inner guidance. So that you know what is the best road to take in any situation. So I think it's such an amazing thing. It's such a gift to be able to do that. And anyone can do that. They just have to learn how. Because intuition is a learnable, teachable skill. It's not some mystic thing that you have to be born psychic or something. It's something that it's like playing the piano. You just have to practice and learn how to do it. And then you practice. And the important thing is don't be afraid to make a mistake. Because, when you're first learning to play the piano, you make a lot of mistakes. Yeah, and same with intuition. You have to practice and you get better and better at it.
Okay. Why does that one resonate with you so?
Because it changed my life so much to learn to dedicate my life to listening to spirit and following my inner guidance. But, along with that, the New Thought teachings and the affirmative prayer and all of that is also life-changing. I mean, anytime you say a positive affirmation, you get an instant result. So that is just so fantastic.
Yes.
You know, I mean, it's all part of one whole spiritual life, spiritual
Mm.
practice, uh, use using every day.
Yes. Yes. So it changed your life. Now, I heard from a little birdie that you were a hippie on the West Coast, and that's how you got into Eastern religions and
Mm,
spirituality and mysticism. So tell me how you made that transition, how you made that life shift, because it's
okay,
probably a very relatable story for
it
all of our
is.
viewers.
Yeah, I was a hippie. I was living in the San Francisco Bay Area. It was the
Mhm.
mid 20th century. Those of us who were flower children,
Yes.
you know, we were seeking spiritual awakening. We were seeking
Okay.
spiritual enlightenment. We were seeking nirvana. And at
Mm-hmm.
that time, our gurus were Timothy Leary
Mm-hmm.
uh, and Richard Alpert, who later became Ram Dass. And they
Yes.
told us that we need to turn on, tune in, and drop out. So
I
that's what we were
remember.
trying to do.
Yes.
That's what I was trying to do. And
Uh-huh.
so, you know, they said we could get there through LSD.
Mm-hmm.
So I tried that. That didn't work out too well. As a matter of fact, that was a disaster.
As you're running down the street in the height naked, it didn't turn out so well now, did
Not
it?
really. So, yeah. So, but I still wanted to reach nirvana. So
Uh-huh.
I was reading all these books of the Buddhist
Mhm,
scriptures, and I was
mhm,
reading The Way of Zen by Alan Watts, and I was reading
mhm,
Autobiography of a Yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda. And in
mhm,
Alan Watts' books, he said that you have to find a meditation guide. Well, in
mhm.
in 1960s and in
I
Berkeley,
would
you didn't
imagine you don't
exactly
just go to the yellow pages to find
yellow
one in the
pages. No,
1960s.
not exactly. So I asked a friend, "How do I find this meditation guide?" And he said, "Well, have you ever tried to meditate on your own?" I said,
Mhm,
"Okay, I'll try it. I'll give it a shot. You know, what
mhm.
can I lose?" So I lay down on my bed. That's how clueless I was, Reverend Jim. I didn't even know that you're supposed to sit up when you meditate and lay on my
So
bed.
after
And
3 seconds, you went to sleep.
not really. I lay on my bed and sort of prayed for or asked for a meditation. And
Okay.
immediately I was propelled into this ecstatic state. I could feel
Mm,
this cord or rush of energy rushing from the tips of my toes all the way up to the top of my head. And I
mm.
felt like I was plugged into a cosmic electric socket, but in a
Yes.
most ecstatic way. And,
Mhm.
you know, I figured, okay, I guess this is meditation.
I can work with this.
little did I, little did I know that not only did I have my first meditation experience, but also Kundalini awakening at the same time.
Yes. Mhm.
So, you know, it wasn't too long after that that a friend took me to the Transcendental Meditation Center. And I saw the
Yes.
picture of the guru on the wall, which is Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. I saw his
Yes.
picture and
Mhm,
I thought, okay, well, this is where I'm going to learn real meditation. I knew as soon
mhm.
as I saw his picture that this is where I
Yes.
would learn real meditation. So
Yes.
I ended up, I learned, took me a long time before the teacher actually came to the area to teach me, but I learned eventually. And then as soon as I learned, it changed my life so radically that I immediately wanted to go to India and study with
Mm.
Maharishi.
Okay.
So, you know, not too long after that, I found myself on the banks of the Ganges River at age
Mm.
22,
Uh-huh.
21, 22. And
Yes.
I spent 2 decades in his various ashrams
Mm.
learning
Okay.
meditation
Okay. So
and
so you
6 years on his personal staff.
oh wow, okay. So basically you were a child of the culture and the times, and that's what pulled you into spiritual seeking, because that was the zeitgeist.
Yeah, it was over there on the West Coast. Yeah, where I
Oh yeah.
was, it certainly was.
Oh, and we all in all of America, we saw it and watched it. I was 9 years old and I wanted to
Oh,
go to Woodstock, and my mother was like,
okay. At age 9, go to Woodstock. I don't
it's
think
like, yeah,
so.
right.
No.
So I lived vicariously through all of your experiences, but it sounds
I
but it
wrote a book
sounds
about it. This memoir, the Maharishi and Me.
yes, tell me
Maharishi and
about
Me:
this.
Seeking Enlightenment with the Beatles Guru. Highly
Mhm.
entertaining book that's won 13 book awards. It's an
Mm.
amazing, amazing book. And
Mhm.
you know, it took me 20 years to write, but I got it written.
Okay, okay, wonderful, 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 wonderful. So tell us a little bit more about your core ideas on building a prosperity consciousness. If there was one thing we needed to know about building a prosperity consciousness, above and beyond, of course, having a positive self regard, what would that be?
You know, throughout my life, what I have done, whenever I want to manifest anything,
Mhm.
I simply make a final and firm decision. I just
Mm.
make a choice.
Okay. Okay.
And everything comes from making a choice.
Mm.
So if you want to manifest anything in your life,
Mhm.
no matter on any level, whether it's a spiritual thing that you want to manifest, a material thing you want to manifest,
Mhm.
a emotional thing you want to manifest, any
Mhm.
part of your life that you want to change,
Mhm.
the first step is to make a decision
Mhm.
and make it final and firm that you're going to get this
Mhm.
and there's no going back. This is
Oh.
my choice. I'm going to do this and I
Mhm.
affirm it right now.
Okay, wonderful. Because if I hear you correctly, what you're saying is, I use my spiritual superpower. And let me explain for some of my viewers who don't understand what a spiritual superpower is. A Course in Miracles says, the power of decision is my own. I create through my decisions, and that is my spiritual superpower. And so, what you just said is, I exercise my spiritual superpower, and that is what enables me to manifest. And and that's so wonderful. And I like to map everything back to A Course in Miracles so that A Course in Miracles becomes more accessible for our viewers. And so, what I hear you saying is, you, everyone who's viewing this program, you have the power to choose and choose and choose and choose and choose. And you choose your life, you choose your circumstances, you choose what you draw to you, you choose what you release. And this is your spiritual superpower. Does that make sense, Dr. Susan?
Makes absolute perfect sense. And if I may, if you can indulge me for a moment,
Oh, absolutely.
I would love, you mentioned, prosperous self-love.
Yes.
So I'd like to turn to that page and I'd like to just say this affirmation, which is so cool. I love it.
Please.
I
Yes.
am one with spirit. I am
Mhm.
the oneness that spirit is now and
Mhm.
always. I live,
Mhm.
breathe, move, and have my being in spirit. I am the
Mhm.
wholeness that spirit is now and always. I am perfection everywhere now. I am the
Mhm.
perfection that spirit is now and always. I am worthy to be loved. I am the love that spirit is now and always. I am worthy to be prosperous. I am the prosperity that spirit is now and always. I am worthy to be fulfilled. I am the fulfillment that spirit is now and always. I am worthy to be joyous. I am the joy that spirit is now and always. I am worthy to be abundant. I am the abundance that spirit is now and always. I am worthy to be content. I am the contentment that spirit is now and always. I am worthy to be successful. I am the success that spirit is now and always. I'm a divine being of great value and worth. I am the precious value that spirit is now and always. I am the power, joy, fulfillment, and energy that spirit is. My aura and body of light are now filled with the divine love and light that spirit is now and always. I am abundantly worthy. I am the satisfaction, fullness, and bliss that spirit is now and always. I am abundantly worthy. Thank you, God, and so it is.
Yes.
I
Pages
love that
158.
affirmation.
Me too. That was the one that I was drawn. I'm so glad you read that,
Yeah,
because pages 158 and 159, 157, 158 and 159, those are my three favorite pages of your book.
cool.
And so I was so glad
I'm
that
glad you
you,
pointed that out.
yes, I'm so glad
Yeah.
you Wrote that. Now, I want us to drill down on one other thing that you said. A full, firm, and final decision. And this is important for our audience to understand, because our audience needs to understand that if there is ambiguity, which is unlike a full, firm, and final decision, that ambiguity is going to show up before the manifestation shows up. And that is not a bad thing, because that ambiguity shows us where our resistance is, where our conscious mind is saying yes, but our unconscious mind might still have a no buried in it. And so that full and final decision may be a decision that we have to make multiple times, because each time we make that decision, we decide against the no and we decide for the yes. Because it's so fascinating to me what decide means. I like to deconstruct words, right? And to decide means to cleave from.
Mm-hmm.
Incisors or teeth, right? The incisors bite, they cut,
Mm-hmm.
they separate. The incisors, well, that word, that root is the same root as in decide. To decide means to cut from, to choose from, to release from, to move from. And so I loved what you said about a full and final decision, where there is no ambiguity. And when there is no ambiguity, there is no that stands in the way of the yes you've affirmed.
Right.
And I think that's very important for our guests to understand. What do you think, Dr. Susan?
Yeah, I'm bursting to talk about that.
Go ahead.
So glad you brought that up, because the whole point of affirmative prayer is to come to that conviction.
Yes.
You know, so during the acceptance part of the affirmative prayer, where you are releasing the negative, and you're and then you accept and welcome the affirmative, and then you state, you know, the acceptance statement, which is your final and firm decision.
Yes.
And then you release that. Then then the manifestation comes, because the point of scientific prayer or affirmative prayer is for us to convince ourselves of the truth.
Yes.
And so after we've convinced ourselves, then we come to that final and firm decision where there's no ambiguity left. But then, as you say, you might have to do that over and over and over until you can fully embrace it and fully accept it in consciousness. So that's, you know, affirmative prayer is just, it's such an incredible miracle. It's so fantastic.
Yes.
And it's really about changing our minds. And when you change your mind, you change the outcome.
Yes.
That's simple. When you believe, when you have full conviction, it's not, conviction is beyond belief. Belief still has a little, ambiguity in it, but conviction is what we have to come to in order for that prayer to be most effective.
Yes.
So that's it. We come to that conviction. We convince ourselves until we come to the conviction. And once we've convinced ourselves, then it's time to, state what it is that we're manifesting. That's the decision. And then we release it,
Yes. And you just answered a question that came in on my text message machine, which was, well, why do we have to pray multiple times? Why do we have to repeat prayers? And you just said something that triggered a response to that, because you said we don't have to convince God. So we don't have to pester God with multiple prayers. Our prayers will convince us.
Yeah,
and
God
I
always
just want to make sure I heard that the right way.
God always says yes. God never says no.
Absolutely.
God is open, ready to give us every possible thing. This is your birthright. This is your birthright. This is your birthright. Simply accept it.
Yes.
So
we don't have to convince God. So we're not pestering God. So we don't have to convince God. We're not pestering God. We have to convince ourselves that we are worthy, and we have to convince ourselves that it is possible, and we have to convince ourselves to accept what God always offers.
Exactly.
Is that right?
That's it. Yeah.
Okay, good. I'm
You know
glad I
that
got
already. Yeah, of course.
Oh no, I don't know anything. I'm just facilitating you sharing your knowledge with our guests.
Yeah.
And I thank you for that. I thank you. Now for our guests, would you have a final brief affirmative prayer?
Oh, pray on what? What would you
Let's pray on our collective greatest good as a country and as a world of oneness, unity, light, and love.
Okay. All right. So world peace? Is that what you?
Yes. World peace. Yes.
World peace.
And
Nothing
2
less
words
than world
less.
peace.
And there's a prayer on that in your book.
I think I might just read the one from the book is what I'm thinking.
Okay, yeah, do that.
Here. That's fine. World peace meditation page.
Yeah, world peace meditation page. For those of you who have
that's
the
a
book,
meditation.
page
That'll be too
207.
long. No, that's
World
too
peace
long.
meditation on page 207.
A meditation's too long, probably.
Oh, that was too long? Okay.
Well, we'll see. Meditations are usually longer than.
Yeah, annotate it if you would.
Oh.
Or there's on page 209, there's the actual meditation at the end with the affirmations. So that I think might be good. Page 209.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Sure, why not?
Yes. Okay.
Okay. All right. I am at peace. I am a peace ambassador. I am a peace philanthropist. I now spread peace to all beings on earth. I live in peace. My mission is peace. I am committed to peace on earth. I live my life in peace. Every precious moment is a new opportunity for peace. I spread peace everywhere I go. I am serene. I am peaceful. I am loving. I am kind. I am compassionate. I am patient. I am tolerant. I am grateful. I am blessed beyond measure. I am loved beyond measure. Thank you, God, and so it is.
And as you are these things, viewers, so is the world.
Let there be peace on earth and let it begin with me.
Let it begin with me. There you go. So I want to thank you, Dr. Susan. What are you working on these days?
Right now, I'm working on these. I actually produce seminars at sea.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm working on 4 different events in 2023. One is called Hidden Secrets Revealed Cruise. Another one is a cruise going to Tahiti. Another one is a cruise called Sail with Spirit. And that's going to Alaska. And then I have another one going to the Greek Isles. So that's all. You can find out about that at divinetravels.com. That's plural on the travels. Divine, DIVINE, travels, TRAVELS.com. And then my new book just came out, which is called The Inner Light, How India Influenced the Beatles. Very
interesting.
Thick and fat book. It's got over 500 pages. It's got a couple hundred photos in it, and it's got 130 QR codes in it. It's pretty amazing.
Oh, wow.
Cool. Amazing book.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Dr. Susan. And thank you for spending your precious time with us. My audience appreciates it, and so do I.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you.
What a pleasure. What a joy. So I want to thank Dr. Susan Shumsky for being our guest here on The Miracle of Prosperity. I'm Reverend Jim Webb. We'll be here next Sunday and every Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern. Until then, be safe, be warm, be loved, be prosperous. And we'll see you next week here on the New Thought Media Network.